Patsy, I think you were going to have a comment about people staying behind and discussing. Do you want to say that now while there's more people here?
Shall I go now, Ray? Shall I leave now?
No, you don't need to. No, not at all, because your comments might be very valuable.
Okay, sure. Yeah.
But it's just that we've been having these discussion groups, which will be recorded for, I think it's 2 years actually. So by now, David has got together a very large collection for us on YouTube. So we were thinking it was a good idea to discuss two things really. The best way to deal with these recordings and to present them, and the extent to which they should be open to the public and the extent to which they should not. And we also thought it might be useful talking about what sort of thing we would like to see have talked about next year. Does that cover it, Ray, or was there something?
Yeah, sounds good.
And so we just thought, the more people that might like to come in on that, we're only thinking of about, I don't know, 20 minutes, I suppose. So anybody who would like to stay to talk about that is very welcome.
I need to go and do something shortly. So can I just give the only comment that I can think of off the top of my head, and then I'll probably need to go and do that. Is the sort of presentation I've just done has got photos in it, and obviously photos of other people's children as well. I mean, those photos are all on our website, so they're, that's open. But one thought that did occur to me is that if you get somebody presenting with photos that they don't particularly want to have shared, but they may not have thought about it beforehand to the world, then that might be worth thinking about. Only certain people accessing it, possibly.
Okay.
Yeah. That's my only thought.
That's great. Thank you. Thank you.
At the moment, we've been publishing the videos on YouTube, but as unlisted, which means that we can circulate a link and people who have the link can see the video, but the videos mostly can't be just found by people, randomly looking something up. But what that means is that they're not seen by as many people, and I think they're interesting. And in some ways, it's a kind of outreach and an education for us. So there is the thought to, and on one or two occasions, one speaker for it was Mission to Seamen. Mission to Seafarers, sorry, so not men anymore, was very happy. He wanted his story circulated as widely as possible, and we mentioned that during the talk, and nobody was against it. So we made that public, and I think it's been seen by a few more people than if we make it unlisted. So that's sort of part of it, but it's like we've got a collection now, and the question is, what do we do with it? Thanks. That's a useful comment, Sue.
I'm going to go now. Okay, so thank you all.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
And just a comment, I can split this video into two and make this discussion separate from Sue's talk, and just circulate links to both of them.
Can I say, David, I had another trouble getting in. I've come in this time on a very, very old link. And all the modern links that you have, I can't get in on for some unknown reason.
Well, the link doesn't change from week to week, so I'm not sure what's going on. I keep that. I have this meeting in my diary, and I have a link that I copied from way back into my diary, and I just click on that, and that gets me on. But one of the things that we don't do when we publish the talks, the link isn't included in the talks. So just from seeing the talk, people can't, oh, I'll go to one soon, that's interesting, I'll join. So one channel for publicity is missing, because on the talks, there's comments under a YouTube talk, and I tend to put, you know, the name of the person. I put a link to the playlist, which has all the talks on it. So on the playlist link, you can find all the talks so far, but none of the talks has a link to the Zoom meeting. So we're being quite restricted in the way that we publicize both the videos and the talks.
Okay.
Well, I'm clerk of French A meeting, and I put it on the notices with the link, but I realized somewhere along the line I missed off the link to the recorded one. I'm not sure where I'll find that now. It'd be useful if you could send that to me again. I hadn't quite realized, well, it is obviously a different one. But yes, so French, I do get both. And I think Redland, they just advertise the next one. I put the whole month on, and I just delete each week. I delete the top one that's gone by. So a lot depends on the clerks and how they do their notices.
Angela?
I think it's very wise to keep them fairly private in inverted commas. I don't have anything to do with social media. One of my granddaughters was suicidal as a result of vileness that she experienced doing good things. So I think, you know, whatever is done on YouTube, I don't understand social media, but be very, very cautious if you're identifying human beings in any way, because of the sheer hatred and nastiness of some aspects of social media.
Rosalie?
Patsy very kindly has circulated the December talks, but has also included the link to the videos, which is extremely helpful. So thank you for that. And we can start, like Kate, I include it in our weekly notices, but it'd be good to be able to put the link to the previous videos. And with regard to videos already recorded, I know myself, for example, I would have given a talk because I felt I was talking to fellow Quakers, and, you know, I felt safe in that arena. So I certainly wouldn't want that to go public. But I think it would be useful to make that as an option when you're approaching speakers, to give them the choice of either it being kept in the smaller pool, Quaker pool, or as already mentioned, some speakers might be very, very glad to have it more widely shared.
Christopher?
Yes, I must admit, I feel I wouldn't want to, well, I don't want to do the talks anyway, but Patsy, you know, is very rough if you don't. But I certainly wouldn't want, you know, if it was being public, I would ask for mine not to be recorded. I don't mind other friends seeing me being a complete idiot, but, you know, because they won't notice any different from normal, but I wouldn't want it going public.
Jenny?
I'd just like to let my children have the ones that I've done, so that it fills in for them some of the information about the past. And I expect some of you will feel the same. But I am worried about the one about the underworld. You can publish that after I'm dead, but don't let them get at me before I go.
Yeah, sorry.
I've put a few links up. The discussion group playlist, if anybody wants to know what that is. The current link to the talks and the Zoom link, that is, that we're all on at the moment. As an example, I've put a link to Jenny's talks. And what I have been doing now, when somebody's given more than one talk, I put in the latest talk that they give, I put a link to their other talks, so that if Jenny wants to share her talks with her children, she can just give a link to the latest talk. And underneath that link in YouTube, when you're on YouTube, you've gone to a YouTube link. Just checking. Underneath it says, yes, it says David Saunders, because I'm curating this list, and then it has some comments underneath, including show more. And at the moment with Jenny's talks, I've got Tales of the Bristol Underworld has been, I guess, sent to whoever hands out minutes. It's not been publicized, but it is on Jenny's list of talks. So, you know, and that's what happens at the moment. Unless somebody comments, I give the latest link to the latest talk to whoever's publishing the Bristol notices, and that either gets out or it doesn't. I don't do anything to publicize them myself, and the talks are filed on YouTube as not public or unlisted. So it means that people who have the link can see it. And obviously you can share links with people. Anybody can share a link with anybody. So it's a sort of viewer discretion is advised.
You know, the last one, I think it was, you know, the one about gender. I did wonder whether, I remember Jane suggesting that the discussion shouldn't be recorded. And I wondered what had happened about that, because and whether everybody was happy for their discussion to be on there, because it's such a sensitive issue.
What did we do about that, David?
I posted the video I did cut. I remember we went into breakout groups, and I said I would cut those out, and I did. And then I posted the video and I asked for comments from the organizers. So I do a standard process, and then I send the video, and it's linked to normally to you and Ray and Christopher, who are organizing the events. And if I don't hear anything back, that's how it stays. So I haven't heard anything back. So that's how it stayed.
Right.
What I do get is whoever has recorded the video often has got preamble to the video before Ray introduces, and it's easy for me to trim a video at the beginning and the end. It's much harder for me to do any detailed editing. And the previous time when we had a discussion with Eleanor about gender, that got way too detailed. I just didn't publish it eventually at all. But I have the originals of the videos on a separate file server. So the archive is there for somebody at some point to take charge of. And at the moment, they're published on my YouTube channel as the easiest place to do it. And we've never had a, you know, at first it was all sort of very informal and an experiment, and we're doing it for COVID. And at some point, I was mindful that we might want to, you know, curate it in a more organized way. But I've just done it fairly minimally with a light hand up until now, and withdrawn a video if it seemed contentious. I'm quite happy to follow anybody's guidance. I would not publish a video that somebody didn't want published, which tends to mean they haven't told me they don't want it published, because if I've got a recording, I publish it. And people are aware that it's being recorded. You know, there's a little button flashing at the top left, and there are sort of, there are kind of conventions with YouTube that if you go to a meeting and you see it's being recorded, you expect that recording to be made available to either the people who were at the meeting or the members of the group sponsoring the meeting. And that's a sort of default standard at the moment. And but we've only once discussed this, and we agreed that because we hadn't asked people's permissions, we would so far just put the recordings as unlisted and not make them public. But the fishermen, sorry, the mission to boat people, the guy specifically asked us if we would publicize it or make it public, and nobody said no, and everybody nodded their heads. So that one alone is marked public.
Something which I would like to say now is the fact that we have been going for quite a time now, and I don't know of Patsy and Christopher, but I think we are starting to find people who will be willing to talk, that fewer and fewer. So friends, could you think of who might be interested in doing something like this, or friends, other friends who you could speak to and say, do you know anybody? Because I feel that we're going to an edge. Patsy and Christopher might disagree with me on that subject, but there you are. I shall leave it floating there, friends.
I think it would be nice if everyone tried to mention it to their friends. But another suggestion as well would be, if you know of someone, but for some reason you'd rather not be the person who approaches them, if you could let me know what details I could have of them, I'm happy to approach them and just say, I've heard that you know, so I mean, now and again one's in that position. So you know, either way, and anyone you can think of, that they don't have to be a Quaker, although it's nice if they are, but it doesn't, just people that will be of interest and whose lives were worthwhile and interesting. And one of the things I've loved about doing this is how many people's lives are absolutely riveting. You know, I really had no idea what an exciting world there was, very close by, and it's been wonderful for me. So, but we do need to keep our channels open. We need to be listening out for people.
How many are you short of for next year?
None.
Jenny.
I've got about 4, I think. I've been thinking about the fact that I haven't really covered shelter properly. You haven't heard much about the gypsies and travellers and the mess that I got into. And being in charge of social services, and then how I put my foot in it. So maybe 3. My husband's about to do one. He's booked, but he's not online. He's going to talk to a meeting, but you wouldn't want him because lots of you are vegetarians, and he's a leather carver. So he deals with dead animals, which doesn't help. I can't divorce him. I don't think if I go to court with that as a reason for divorcing, that they will accept it.
I've definitely got you down for 3 talks in that case, Jenny.
I've got a friend who's become vegetarian and certainly was, amongst many other things, a leather carver. I don't know if he still is. He might well say, well, we don't want to waste any part of it, you know. These animals will be killed for other people to eat. And I'm just using the one of the byproducts.
Even worse with me because he teaches it, so he's got all these students going out to do it in future.
Christopher.
Yeah, I'm slightly confused because I thought Mary asked, did Patsy got all the slots filled for next year? And Patsy said yes. Whereas I would have thought the answer is no, that you haven't got any, or have you?
Well, I've just been told there's 3 coming. So we've got 3, but we shall need another 49.
I think Julia wants to talk again, Patsy.
Oh yes, and that's Julia again. That's that particular talk on gender. I think I could do with some advice really on how we plan for the next one, because I got a couple of people getting back to me saying they would have liked more opportunities to talk about particular things, you know, and perhaps maybe a questions session. This isn't an idea I've run past Julia yet. Well, I'm just mentioning it to you now. You know,
She'd be very happy to hear from you because she's very keen to promote it all.
Yes, yeah.
I'm thinking, why don't we ask friends that we know? I mean, Richard Drake, for instance, could talk about on running the refuge and so forth, the homeless unit.
Yes.
In fact, everyone in Quakers has got an interesting story to tell.
Yes, but I've had people tell me that they don't have an interesting life at all to talk about, which I'm certain isn't true. What is?
I would make the French comment there, au contraire, madame.
Exactly, exactement. I'm not sure there is such a word actually.
Christopher.
Yeah, I was going to say, and I think, you know, our informal and friendly way of doing it is helpful, because I know for years at Redland meeting, I'd hope the John and Jean Corns would talk, you know, just chat about their time in Korea, but you know, they weren't happy just to chat about it. If they were going to do it, they'd have to, you know, look at all their diaries, sort out the photograph, you know, and of course it never happened. But yes, I'll have a look. I've looked through Central Friends and I've thought of people off the top of my head. Did we ever get Kate Cashmore to talk about the area meeting camp, or is that?
Oh, is that what you wanted me to? I was asked, but I just went blank.
All right.
Right.
Yeah. I could talk about, I visited for half a day once and decided never ever to go anywhere near it again. I could start it off, but it just occurs to me, you know, it's been going since, it started shortly after I joined Friends, because Paul Whedon started it because they did it in the area meeting he came from. But well, think, if you can't do it yourself, think of somebody else who's still going. Who,
I could do camp, yeah.
Yeah.
I just, you know, I thought, well, you know, if I talk about my life, it's I can't.
Yeah, no, if you talk about, no, the idea was to talk about, you know, area meeting camps and, you know, reminiscences and,
yeah,
you know, it doesn't have to be accurate or anything.
I did once write an article about it, I think for our newsletter, you know, well, I know what, it's a typical day in camp or something.
Yeah.
I don't know if I can find it now, but yeah.
Yeah.
I went
When-
up to about 2 years, you know, I think, I'm not sure if I missed the last one that actually happened, but of course there've been 2 that didn't happen.
Yeah.
I'm not quite sure whether I shall go back to it, because I'm beginning to find it a little bit arduous.
Yeah.
I always
Wow.
think it's an experiment in social living rather than a holiday.
Yes.
But yeah.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Yeah.
Well, and this is an experiment as well, and I think a very welcome one. You know, we get to see much more of what people have in their background than you do just meeting them at central meeting, or not meeting at meeting, because we've been virtual for so long. So I think it's a valuable exploration. And you know, some people are telling about their lives, like Jenny and Hattie, and I get to explore the ideas that I'm playing with in the talks that I've given, and get feedback on them from a small group, which I find very, very helpful. So, you know.
I just wonder with you, David, certainly you know an awful lot about the environment and what we should be doing. I assume you've done some talks, but I've not heard them. But to give us a tick list of what we ought to be looking at and where we could open the Pandora's box to try to change our lives.
That'd be interesting. I mean, we've just had COP26, and I sat in on an interesting talk from Marvin. Our mayor went to COP26 with a delegation, and he came back pretty much saying what we all know, those people who even know what COP26 was, which is that governments aren't going to do it. You know, the biggest group of delegates, apart from governments, at COP26 was fossil fuel companies, and that's where governments get their money from, right? So we can't expect governments to act quickly on climate change. But Marvin's point was that we're going to have mass migrations, and that people live in cities, not in countries so much. And, you know, we're going to have to deal with this. And that it's cities who are going to tackle climate change. And since Bristol declared its intention to be carbon neutral by 2030, it's had to think, how would we do that? What would it cost? Where could we get the money? And especially, where could we get the money if we didn't get it from central government? We would have to make it investable. And those things are becoming possible. So I think Quakers who are genuinely concerned about the biggest crisis facing humanity, I think it's good for us to have discussions on this. And yeah, I'm certainly happy to continue our ideas.
Can I follow that up? My MP is Thangham, and I'm a Labour Party member. I make no secret of that. She had a stall the other Saturday where she was asking passers-by, what can you personally do to help prevent the climate catastrophe? And there was a tick sheet of 5 things which she suggested which an individual human being could do. You know, wear warmer clothes was one of them. You know, turn your heating down. I can't remember all 5, but I thought that was a thought-provoking activity for one of our local MPs to do. I do know Thangham. I know she was brought up as a Quaker. She's not a Quaker now, but that's just an aside. So I think perhaps as Quakers, as citizens in Bristol, we need to think about how have we got to change our lives? For example, I grew up in World War II, and you know, the ice on the window used to come on the inside, and we wore lots of layers of clothes. And I can remember my mum saying, no, you can't, there's a war on, when I was a very little girl. I didn't know what a war was. I thought maybe it was like dog's poo and, you know, you might tread in it. But I think it's individuals. It is a catastrophe. What are we going to, what changes are we going to make? Might be a very small starting point.
Perhaps Thangham would be a good person to invite to come and give us a talk. I don't know if she could find time, but I could invite
Well,
her.
I think that would be a good idea, because she lives quite near, you know, she's always doing Zoom meetings. And when I've been to one of her Zoom meetings, there were nearly 200 people there. But I think time is the thing, isn't it? But I think she has to have a commitment to the constituents, you know, who live in Bristol West, and some of us do. So I think that might be worth pursuing.
Especially since all our councillors are members of the Green Party now. So Tangham's on the, I won't say defensive, but I think it's very good that the parties in Bristol are competing to be out social and out greening each other. Because
I hope they have principles, and I feel sure they do. I think, David, with respect, that's a rather cynical view.
No, I think it's not intended to be that. My thought is that with a good balance of Green and Labour councillors, nobody is sitting there entrenched in power, and everybody could and should be thinking, what's the best that we can be doing for Bristol, and talking to people about it, because the community needs to be involved, as you're saying.
I suggest then that we ask somebody from each of the parties, the Lib Dems and from the Green Party, so that we balance things, and we might learn something.
Great.
Should I? Oh, sorry.
I was just going to suggest that I knew somebody from the Bristol Green Party who might be willing to do one. I also know somebody, I used to work with somebody who's been very involved with the Conservative Party for donkey's years. So, you know, we could ask him as well.
Yes, please, Christopher.
But I've been just sitting here thinking, well, perhaps Graham Davey could give a talk about the Green Party in Bristol and how, you know, it's suddenly taken off. But anyway, I think I'm going to go now, and then you can think of all sorts of things that you might like me to do, and I'll.
I need to go.
We said half an hour, and it's been longer than that, so maybe time to wrap it up. Yeah.
I think. Okay. Am I right in thinking that we're clear that we don't want the videos going public?
That was...
on the whole, unless, you know, and we want things to continue. So lovely. Right.
All right. Thank you very much, everybody. Thank you.
Thank you.